Hi guys, I'm going to show you a tutorial of a new way to sequence your frames in Premiere Pro, where you import your frames individually as clips on your timeline instead of using the image sequencing tool. And this gives you more flexibility to be able to hold and manipulate your frames so that sometimes your animated thing can be still and you can extend a frame as long as you would like. Okay, so what we'll do is click New Project. You're going to want to make sure all these import settings are off. You're going to just change it to a new project name at the top. Balancing Ball Edit 2. I'm going to put it on my desktop or wherever you want to put it. Click Create. And we're going to do a few things after this. So we're going to import frames and a background frame. The other thing we're going to go over is how to have a background like frame or multiple frames that you can superimpose on your animation so that you can see both a background as a still image and animation at the same time, and you don't always have to redraw background elements. So first I'm going to import my media and then I will set up my timeline. Okay, so File, Import. Here I'm going to find my bouncing ball, animation frames, and a single background frame that I drew. So let's see, go to class demos, bouncing ball project. Okay, bouncing ball stationary frames and bouncing ball background frame. Import. And I have those here. I have my one frame that is a background that's going to be longer, and I have all my different frames here. So at this point, what I'm going to do is create a new sequence that has all the correct settings to work for editing at 12 frames per second. So what I'm going to do here is go to File, New, Sequence, and I'm going to set up a custom sequence that's perfect for your paper size and your desired 12 frames per second. So skip this sequence presets for now, go to Settings, and make your editing mode custom. If you accidentally make it one of these other ones, you're going to have to go back to custom to set up your settings again. So make your editing mode custom, and there's a few things here that are really important to make correct so that your screen will be the right size and frame rate. So editing mode custom, time base 12 frames per second. Frame size should be the pixel size of your paper, which is 2199 by 1700. Sorry, 2199 on horizontal and 1700 vertical. Pixel aspect ratio. This is super important. It needs to be square pixels. If you do not put it on square pixels, it will make like a widescreen view. That's not what you want because your paper is not widescreen sized. So fields, no fields is fine. Display format 12 FPS time code, and all the rest of these can stay the same. Okay, so that's what we got. And what I would do at this point is save preset. So this is a new preset. You will never have to change these settings again. You can just always make a new sequence that's set up for working with paper 12 frames per second. So I'll name this paper 12 FPS sequence. Click OK. I already have one called that. So then down here on the sequence presets page custom, you have your preset with all those correct settings. So I'm going to select paper at 12 FPS sequence and make my sequence name bouncing ball editing. Okay. So I have the correct sequence, like timeline set up to work with this. So that's the first thing you needed to do. It was great. And it's the title of it is here. And whenever I click on it in the media bin, it will pop up. So I have my timeline. Okay. So then the next step is to put your frames in here. But if you just copy, like drag them onto the timeline, that will make them pop up, but the timing is all off. So if I play this in real time, each one is like 5 seconds long, but you need it to be a 1/12 of a second, right? To be 12 frames per second. So I'm just going to delete all those. And before I drag them in, it's really important to make each one the correct length, which is 1 frame long, 1/12 of a second. So what I did is select all of them, right click, and change the setting for speed/duration. And I'm going to drag this, so put my cursor on the duration and drag it all the way to the left. So you should see a 01 at the end. So this is a time code. It has 4 segments of these numbers, so it's hours, minutes, seconds, and then frames. So if you drag it all the way to the left, the shortest it could possibly be is 1 frame long, so we need to do that and click OK. So now all of these are each 1 frame long, and when I bring them into the timeline that is already 12 frames per second, it will default to making them each 1 frame long, 1/12 of a second. And the only reason I can't see it here, don't think that it's not there, it is. You just need to zoom in on them in the timeline. And the way you can do that is by using these little balls on the end of the scrolling bar, and that makes the timeline zoom in on these really short frames. So now when I play it, they're all in sequence. And it bounces perfectly. And now it's really easy for me to select all of them, do Control-C for copy, and just paste several copies of them in a row. And it will be bouncing and bouncing. Alright. So, one thing about working with these kinds of frames instead of an image sequence is that when you click on one, and say you wanted to extend one of your frames to be longer, that's the advantage of working with it frame by frame like this. Say I wanted it to hang in the air on this frame for 5 seconds or however long. I can't just drag it out because it's stuck in this timeline, and it won't automatically move everything else if you just drag it on the standard selection mode here. So you need to use these little buttons, these tools here above your timeline, to change your basically your selection mode. So instead of this like blue triangle, you want to go to the ripple edit tool, and that's a different way of selecting it so that when you change the length of something, it'll automatically shift everything else. So I want to go back to that 1 frame where it's going to hang in the air, and now if you notice, the cursor is like a yellow arrow. Before, if you're on the regular selection tool, it's a red arrow, but when you shift to ripple edit, it's a yellow arrow, and that means that when you drag it, everything else gets pushed down. So you can see it here. Boop. Everything moves down, and if I zoom out a little, you can see that effect even more. So lengthen it, all of these shift down, shorten it, they all shift back. So yeah, ripple edit tool is really, really important. There are a lot of other tools here that I'm not going to go over yet. Okay. Oh, this one is helpful. You can do a track select forward tool. If you do that, you can select everything ahead of it, and you can also do this by using the regular selection tool and making like a box here. Sometimes I'll just do that, but if you want to do it, you can do it this way. There's also a keyboard shortcut for ripple edit, which is B, and for regular selection, which is V. So I'll switch back and forth between D and B. Alright, so I'm doing ripple edit now, and I'm going to put that 1 frame back to 1 frame long. Okay. Oh. Alright. go. It's another regular length frame and we're all good. Okay, so now that I have this repeating the way that I want it to, the next thing I want to do is add my background. In this case, it's super simple for a bouncing ball. It's just one frame of one line. So here I have it. Here, this is like a source window. You can see a preview of anything that you have in here. So it's just one line. All right, let's put this back down so I can see my regular preview window up here. Okay, so again, in Premiere, you have these video layers and audio layers. So you can layer audio, you can layer video, you can always add more video layers here as well. All right, so I'm gonna take my bouncing ball frame and put it above my regular animation frame. Then of course it's blocking the entire timeline. You can't see your ball, but there's a really easy workaround for that, which is to use effect controls to change the blending mode. So if you've ever used Photoshop, there's a blending mode on each layer that you can change, and one of them is multiply. And what that does is make like each layer transparent. So any white of the paper becomes transparent automatically and you see just the drawing. So that's what you're gonna do here. Create an overlay that is transparent with your background. Okay, so you're gonna make sure that the window shows effects control. So let me turn that off. My media browser. Okay. So there's a difference between effects and effect controls. You're going to want to make sure that effect controls is turned on, and that's what you use, not effects. Okay. So then after you have dragged your background frame, you just select that frame and find the FX for opacity. Go into that, and then blend mode is normal, and select multiply. And now your background frame is transparent, it's overlaid, and you'll see your ball bouncing on the line. Okay. That is what I have on using frame by frame sequencing and adding a background that's transparent overlay. All right.